N8N and Supabase is a great combination for quickly iterating and testing on AI systems. Today, what I'm going to show you is how to get them both running locally on your machine for free, so you don't have to pay for a new database every time you want to test something little. I'm going to show you how to do this if you're a developer, how to do it if you're not accustomed to writing code, and then I'm going to show you them running and how you actually get them to talk to each other. Let's go. First of all, this entire system was inspired by a YouTuber called Cole Medin, who's got some videos and then a repo on running AI locally. So it involves N8N Supabase plus running the LLM through LLM locally on your machine. It was a little bit too cumbersome for what I needed. The project I was working on just needed N8N and Supabase. So that's what inspired me to create my own repo and my own little project here that makes this nice and easy, especially around environment variables. If you are a developer, you can likely just go to the link below for the GitHub repo, run through the documentation yourself and get it all set up. But I'm going to speed run you through it just so you see how it all works. First thing we're going to do is come in and clone the repo. And then go into the file. Got here setting up brew in Python that you'll already have done. I'm going to make sure Docker is running. See up here, Docker desktop is running. What I'm going to do is set up a Python environment, just so that nothing else I've installed on my machine is interacting with anything here. See, we're inside our virtual environment. I'm going to install all of the packages. We only have 2, it's quite a small repo here. Install those. Now we will run the command to initiate this. We don't have an environment variable created, so if you run this beforehand, it will create an environment variable for you, generating secure keys for each of the different parts that we need for Supabase and for N8N. We've initialized, now it outputs what we need to run to get this going. This will use Docker to run both N8N and Supabase in a way that they can talk to each other. As that's complete, now we output our URLs here for accessing N8N Supabase, and then this third one here is for connecting to Supabase from inside N8N, which I'll show you in a second. If we come here, this is a local instance running on a local Postgres inside Docker, so none of this data goes to N8N. And we're in here with a fresh instance, including a workflow that I will step through in a few minutes that explains how to actually get them talking to each other. The next thing is opening up Supabase. Again, we're provided the URL. Paste that in the browser and ask for a username and password. These are unique to every time we run this project, and they're stored inside the EM variables. I'll open those up. We can see in here underneath Supabase environment variables, we have a dashboard username and a dashboard password. And here we have a fresh instance of Supabase and a fresh N8N running. Now, if you want to close these down, instead of running Python script start, we just run stop. That spins down both of the Docker compose sections, and this is included in the repo as well. If you're not a developer, then running everything to a terminal like that might have seemed a little bit intimidating, and you might not have all of the things set up in your computer. So I'm just going to quickly show you how to do all of that. Again, I've included all of the things that are important in the repo. We need to install Git, Docker, Python. What I would first recommend is downloading Cursor AI Assistant, cursor.com. The reason for this is if at any point I explain something here and it throws back an error, you can just ask Cursor what's happening and it'll give you a pretty good response. What we're going to do first of all is open up a terminal. We come in here, create a new terminal with profile, set sh. Now because I'm using Mac, I'd like to install Homebrew. That's something I already have. I've included the URL here. If we follow this through, it gives us a nice command, copy paste that in here, and Homebrew is just an easy way of installing apps on a Mac terminal. We're then going to run brew install git, copy paste here. Because we've got brew installed, it'll then go through the process of installing git, which is just manager for code. Delete that. Next thing you need to do is set up the config. Again, copy and paste these with your name and your email address. We need git for running through this flow so that it can download different things from Supabase. The next bit to do is install Python. Again, we'll copy and paste this in. Include Python 3 to be explicit, but brew install Python. Next one to install is Docker, provided the link here. This one just installs more similar to a normal app. We come in, scroll down to download Docker desktop, choose whatever machine you're using, install it how you would install a normal app, and then before we do anything else, just make sure you have it running. Docker, make sure it's running here. If you're on Windows, just open up like any normal app. Okay, we've got the base set up, but we don't have the project downloaded or installed. If we're in Cursor here, they provide us this clone repo. What I'd recommend you do is come up to code, go to HTTPS, because it's unlikely you'll have SSH set up. Clone the repo, enter it here. I'll just install this on my desktop. It opens up the repo to see all of the code. So the big thing we've got here is we've got some scripts that make a lot of this easier. Set the environment, the initialization, running, stopping, all those sort of things. But once we're here, we're going to open up terminal again. And we're just going to go through the same process that we did with the others. Again, just copying and pasting. Creating a Python environment. Copy, paste. Yes, I want to use it in my workspace. Now, if you get errors at anything, I just hit Command L and it comes up in an instruction box. Or with Cursor, we've also got a chart on the right hand side, and it just makes it easy to iterate over any issues you might be having if your machine setup is different to mine. And then we're just going to run through this process the exact same. Set up the environment, install, we'll initiate. Yes, we want it to create the env. And now we'll see it's created this file here. And this is what we're going to use for Supabase. So we can see in here that provides our dashboard username, dashboard password here. As I've stopped the last one, I'm going to start again. It's going to spin these up. Because we're on Cursor, we can just hit Command click. And we see we've got a brand new fresh instance of N8N and Supabase. Now we are asked for our username and password. And we take these straight from this .env file. And we're in. The final thing to show is now that we've got our own instance of N8N and our own instance of Supabase, both connected to their own Postgres databases, how do we start creating workflows where they speak to you? I provided a basic Supabase RAG. And all this does is takes files from your computer, runs it through Supabase vector store, and then you can have some discussions over the top of those files. That's not that interesting, you're going to want to adapt this to your own use case. But what we do have here is showing you how to set up the project. So we've got these two that before you run anything else, you have to run. This little symbol here, if you're not used to it, is a Postgres symbol. Now, although this is Postgres, we don't want to connect to N8N's Postgres, we want to connect to the Postgres that runs for Supabase. And this was a little bit trickier to figure out than I expected. So what we need to do here is use these values and our environment variables to connect. So our host here is not actually localhost, it is actually host.docker.internal. Because they're both running in their own Docker containers, they need to be able to speak to each other. The database we're using is Postgres. The user we're using is Postgres, but we also need to include our pooler tenant ID. So it's Postgres.local pooler. Our password, which is unique to our instance, is this Postgres password. And then the port that we're using, normally for Postgres you use 5432, but in here we can see all of the environment variables for Docker. So what we've done is generated this and then it updates all of these values. This comes straight from Supabase's documentation. We can see here in terms of ports, we actually want to connect to the pooler proxy, which is 6543. This will always be the same, so you can ignore that a little bit and just put in 6543. And if we save this, ta-da, we've got a connection. So now this N8N is connected directly to our Supabase. And I'm going to call this, just to avoid confusion, Supabase. Okay. It creates a table called document chunks, this query, and also initializes the extension vector. If I run this, we can now come into Supabase and see that we've added a new table. The second one to run is Supabase vector match. So this just creates a function that we will use inside the vector section for matching up here. Something to note is I've used 3072 because I use OpenAI's embedding model, but if you use the small version, you need to half this number. Again, we just run this. It's already connected to the same sites. And then the second bit that we connect, that's directly Postgres N8N to Supabase's Postgres. But the other way that we can connect is using the Supabase connection itself. In here, we want to create new credentials, and this is connected directly to Supabase through their API. And in here, we want to use this entire link. And our service role key we can get from either of these environment variables is our service role key here. And this is uniquely generated for every project that you run. And there we go, connected up. Connection there. Connection here. The last one to connect to is OpenAI. In here, create a new credential. An API key, I've already started doing this. And create a new key. And we'll move this straight after the video. Enter our key, normal URL. There we go. And now we have a setup of N8N running locally on our machine and Supabase also running locally on our machine, and all of the necessary connections between them. There we go. If you're new, my name's Sean. I've been a software engineer for the past 6 years. Lately, I've been doing a lot of learning on AI systems and automation for business, and I'm sharing what I'm learning along the way. If you find any of this useful, or if you have any questions, or if any part of it doesn't work exactly as you expect, leave a comment below and I'll get back to you on every single one. Thanks.